have before us a Suzuki Hummingbird copy. Not sure whether this is pre-lawsuit era or post-lawsuit era, but we'll discover that as we go along. I can't find a serial number on it. It has been stored for a long time, I see. The frets are in very poor condition, the fretboard, and the frets. It's been a very well played guitar, as you can see from the frets, so it's going to need, yeah, it can be crowned, yeah. It'll be scraped and crowned and cleaned. The neck itself doesn't look too bad, although I haven't run the measure across it yet. Good in focus there, down there. Get down, that's a good boy. That's it. A 9507, right? The big problem it has is that the bridge is lifting. I've loosened the strings, so you can't see it just as much, but I immediately loosened the strings. There's not a lot of damage to it. It's in very good condition. They're worth anything between 150 to 450 pounds, depending on the condition. And I'm going to check it all thoroughly. The strings are in lousy condition, like, look, they're really bad. I'm going to cut them off. I'm not even going to bother. Looks like the original peg. There's some scratching, and there's some damage to the actual bridge itself. And we'll have a closer look as we go along, and I'll keep you all informed. I'll give these strings away to anybody who wants them afterwards. Not sure what this means. Solid, bit less. Solid. So I won't know what that means until I get them off. Overall, they don't seem like they're falling apart, so maybe there's something can be repaired in them, but we'll see. The problem with taking the autofocus off is that I need my glasses to make sure that it's focused on the screen. And that means I've got 3 pair of glasses, one for looking close, one for looking distance, and one for looking... Anyway, never mind all that crap. We've got this issue here where can you see that they're lifting up and down? And I noticed too, that one's now stuck up and down. When you lift them up and down, they turn, but this doesn't turn. You can see that. Nothing's happening. But these ones are stiff, so that's obviously not meant to do that. So I'm going to turn this around and look at it to see what the problem may be and if it's fixable. Let me just bring this down a little bit lower. Are you still in focus, boys and girls? Nothing worse than looking at something. I think that's in focus there. Right, so I'm going to take off one of these and see if it's fixable. If it's not fixable, then they need to be replaced, but they're a funny little shape. Not a humorously funny little shape, but a funny little shape. They're like let me just see what this looks like. Can you see that? Right, why is it bouncing up and down? Alright, it looks like it's just a loose screw. Right, okay. So that looks like it's repairable. So nothing to get excited about, I don't believe. Yes, it's even more simple than I thought it would be. Hopefully this focus, you can see that there's just little, let me just show you. Can you see that? It's just a simple matter of it being a square. It's got a square thing in it to grab it, and it just went loose. So now it can be grabbed. So it's a simple fix. Okay, goodbye. Better look at the fretboard now. Frets are pretty poor. Let's we just see that's pretty well dug in. It's been a well played guitar, but the fretboard is in need of a couple of those frets may need to be replaced. The head dirty, but it's not terrible. Because it uses the first fret, and I think I see, although I'll have to look at it closer, but I think I see the fret lifted. Maybe not, maybe not. But we'll see. Let me feel the edge of the frets. Yeah, they're all fine. It'd be a shame to have to refret this, but I don't think it needs it. I think, if anything, it may need a couple of frets at the top redone. But we'll just check while we're here about fret movement. Let's just check it. Nothing. Nothing. Little bit. Yeah. Okay, let's look at it this way. Little bit. Bit more. Okay, we'll look at the truss rod now. After a bit of fiddling, the good news is that it's loosening. The bad news is that it's not doing anything by loosening. But let's not despair. When I put on the rod, it's perfectly straight. So perhaps now that it was very tight, but now perhaps it's loosened, we may get some sort of movement in the neck. And when we put strings on, so there's a little way to go. We'll see what happens, okay? I've been looking at these frets, and they're on their last legs, the top last leg, like love at the top end. But Dave's World of Fun Stuff, he's a luthier, much better luthier than I. He says that this is not wear. This is not wear and tear. This is not wear. In other words, the frets are not being ground away, but the frets are being pushed down and pushed out. So the fret material's still there, even though it's squished down. I presume that to some degree that's true, and I think he's right, but this was the worst fret. And I filed it and polished it, and it was worse than that one, and it was worse than that one. But it seems to have, I used a file, a special file, and I did that, and I pushed the material, as I tried to push the material as I was filing, and I think they get away with this. I think you'll get away with this for another, well, it's not going to be played professionally, I don't believe anymore, but I think you'll get away with this for another 10 years. Played at normal things, so I don't think I'm going to do a fret job on this, because the rest of the frets are not just as bad. It's only those top 4 or 5 frets where the money frets, as they say there. So I think that we'll get away with that, but we'll soon find out. The good news is that the truss rod, when I first loosened it, the head would go straight, but it wouldn't go any more than straight. But I've checked it today, and it's been relaxing, and the actual right kind of bend, that kind of bend, well, tiny bit of a bow is going on it, which is what I like. Okay. I was wondering what the smell was that was pervading the office. It's been in storage so long that there's a lot of fungus on it. So the first job I'm going to do is clean the case to get rid of the smell in the house. And I'm just using an ordinary wipe, by the way. So I couldn't believe it. I thought, I had a bath just last month. So what's the smell? But anyway, it takes it away in a few seconds. I don't know what the inside's like, but I'm pretty sure the inside will be all right because the guitar was okay. That's interesting. Inside of the case is okay. It's not bad. There's no smell. There's no damp or anything like that there. But the one thing I would say is if you're storing a guitar for any length of time, you want to loosen the strings. And you also want to put paper on one side of the strings, and even a newspaper folded over. Because if you're going to store it, the strings are not going to be much use. But yes, it's nice that the guitar is held in position, but these things can actually do more damage if they're not just treated with a little bit more knowledge of what's going on. But you don't want that pressing against your strings for 5 or 6 years, because you damage the neck, force the neck in the wrong shape. Okay. Yeah, we got the head off and I just put my hand in and I'm coming out with something like this. Right, a bolt. Probably the bolt at the other end of this, which came out of the head. Probably the bolt for that. My hands are wet from WD-40 because it was jammed. Now this thing here is not coming out. I'm not going to force it out. I want to feel. Well, this bridge needs to be removed because it's coming away at the back, as I explained earlier. And each person who works on a guitar has their own ways to do this. Me, I like the small way rather than the big way. I'm using a hot air soldering gun, and interestingly enough, I use a very small spatula made out of stainless steel, and I heat up the end. It takes a little longer, but to me I think it gets a finer sort of detail done and less damage to the woodwork. And then I just push it underneath there and I work it. Interestingly, you may be surprised to find out that it doesn't get warm at that end because it's a good quality stainless steel, but it doesn't get warm at the end where my hand's holding it. 2 hours. 2 hours of fiddling and fiddling and fiddling. But it came off very clean. There's only a couple of little patches and they'll be fine. There's not much wood on there at all, and there's no cracks. I've got the number 33 there, or it's got 2 sets of ladies' boobs. Depends on what you're looking at. Depends on what your mind's on. What is it? It's 1:30 in the morning, so I suppose a lot of men would have their minds on that. But yeah, there you go. It's pretty clean, to say. You can see where the problem lay. If you look at that there, it came away at the back. But if you look at the back, the glue's not there. The glue's just not holding it. There's some, yeah, there's a space there where there's no glue. But what I don't like is there's a lump there. So I'll give this a good clean up. And then tomorrow I'll clean that all down and glue that all down first. There's very little damage around the edges of the thing, so it should fit on pretty well and not be too much. All right. Well, I don't like what I'm seeing. The piece of wood beneath the board has cracked along where the pegs go, and that crack has weakened, which has allowed this part to rise up. And if you can see, now that's pretty hard to fix. I'll have to put my thinking cap on. Unfortunately, Suzuki, in their wisdom, put the grain of the wood along that way. So the grain of the wood's running that way, which is the wrong way. It should have run that way, because that would give it more strength. But because it ran that way, the little piece of wood beneath that has split. So there's a crack from there to there, and the little piece of wood underneath. I'll try to show you that. Okay, you can see that quite clearly. The other problem we have is the piece of wood beneath that, which looks like mahogany. It may not be, it might be rosewood or something stupid, but it's firmly attached to this. It is solidly attached to this, so there's no way I can get that off without doing a lot more damage from underneath than here. And if I take it off below, then I would have a trouble getting a really smooth surface to put another piece of wood on. The final problem is that the bridge, it sits, when it goes back on again, it rocks. So I have to find a way to force that down flat, that bubble. You can't see that bubble, but it's been forced upwards. force that down flat. Now the theory I'm coming up with is put another piece of wood, a piece of maple wood, with the grain running that way, the way it should do to give it strength, on top of the wood beneath it, right? But even then, I don't think it's going to be enough, because that's a very solid bubble that's pushed up there to bring the body down flat. The other problem is too that it depends on how far I can get this bridge down, because the bridge is not low enough down for the guitar. If I use a straight edge, what should happen is that the straight edge should come just above the bridge, but it's not. Whenever the straight edge is used, it's sitting right on the bridge, which right on the wood part of the bridge, it should be sitting about the saddle, which means that this bridge is too high, so the whole body has to come down, or I have to take a bit off the bridge. But there's not much to work with. There's very little to work with the bridge there, and you can see that the bridge itself is a metal saddle inside the guitar, so I can't take off anything beneath that. And the actual bridge, let me just grab it, is quite thin. As you can see, there's nothing to take off that. Right, I'm doing this in an attempt to explain it to myself and think of ideas, but the black lines are the struts that are underneath. The black line there is one strut, this is another strut, and this is the further strut. They're all very well fixed to the bottom. This represents the piece of wood that's beneath the top of the guitar. Now, Suzuki put this strut in, which goes the whole way down to there. And Suzuki put the strut in, it goes the whole way down to there. They've left this gap open, there's no strut there, right? That's the wisdom of their choice, so that's fine. That's what we're stuck with. My problem is, now that I've looked at it further, I'm going to put another piece of wood on underneath this, exactly the same as that, but with the grain running that way, so it won't split. This is not fun. I don't like this. I'm not a happy puppy. I have to have a clean, dry, strong surface. So what the Suzuki people, them boyos, did was they stuck the bridge down on top of the lacquer, and depended on the lacquer to hold the bridge down in some places, not in all places. And in other places they didn't put any glue at all. But then again, I'm just repeating myself. But what I've got to do now is make sure this is clean. But if you can see, there's lacquer there. Can you see that there's lacquer there where the glue needs to be? And I have to scrape that lacquer off. So let me turn this around without destroying the place, so to let you see what. I hope that's in focus. Right. What I've got here is some tight bond, best glue there is, in my opinion. I'm putting it onto the cracks that have risen, and getting it right underneath them. So let's just squeeze out the residue and let it sit there and give it a bit of a clean. There you go, that's one little bit.
There's another bit over here. I don't know whether you get to see anything here. You can see there's something. Oh, it's on the, see, it goes the other way. It's lifted that way. So I'm going to lift it a bit, put the glue underneath it as far as I can. Get it down. There's another bit here. No, it doesn't go under too far, but the wood glue is going to keep it going. And smother that. Now press it the other way and squeeze out the excess. And that's pretty solid. That will be pretty solid. And there's one final bit to do. And that is over here somewhere. Yes, there's those bits there that I've lifted. Not sure what you can see in the camera, but I'm trying to get that underneath. These are tighter, so I'm going to try to lift it with a pin. Yeah, lift it with a pin the whole way along. These these are just some, whenever you're taking the bridge off, this happens, and fortunately, no matter whether you use a billion gallons of heat or no heat, it'll still happen. Right, okay, and that will be down, and I'll just press that down. Type Bond's very good, I must admit I like Type Bond. I'm sure other people like it. Like other
products, but Type Bond, if you're listening, could do with some free stuff.
If that you are listening now. No, a little bit here, this is a bit hairy. What I'm going to do is push this down. What I'll do is take a bit of sandpaper this later on because it's a bit rough. And sand it down because that's what this thing up as a little bit of lump. But I'd rather have it as a little bit of lump than a little bit of a hole. Right, okay, and I'll take some sandpaper down. Very lightly sand it. I'm not going to do much to it at all in the way of sanding. So.
Right, okay. Now, once that's, I'm going to set that to the side and give it an hour or so just to dry. Maybe till tomorrow actually to dry. And I'm going to work on the actual bridge. Right, I'm going to clean this bridge up. Use my favorite little blade. It's just a little handy blade that I use, and you can see there's glue all over that, so I have to get rid of it all, clear it up. Right, well, that's it, cleaned. It's going to need to be sanded, but I can't do that until I put the body down and got the body as flat as possible. Then I put the sandpaper on top of the body, like that there, and then rub this to get the shape. Or is it that way? Yeah, that way. All right, okay. Okay, this is our Suzuki Hummingbird, and I'm almost happy with this, but not quite. I think I'm sort of 7.5 out of 10. Neck's nice and straight. All the heads have been fixed. There's one that's still a little bit loose, but that's wear and tear. Actually, I can't feel it now, but that's wear and tear in the gear. The fretboard's all nice and clean. I didn't go crazy on the frets. I just polished them up, leveled them a bit, put new light strings on, and have the guitar. Now, the bit that I'm not happy with is the bridge. The bridge was coming off, and I had to take it completely off. There's a slight bit of damage you can see when I took it off, but I'm actually quite pleased that there's as little of damage as that, because it's very hard to match up the rest of this. Now, what am I not pleased about? Because none of the ideas I could come up with underneath would bring that bulge, that little bulge down. None of them. I tried several different ideas and things, and none of them would work. So eventually what I had to do is glue the bridge down, use stronger bolts with washers on both sides of this here, and suffer the little dent. Now you'll see the bridge is leaning forward. It could stay like that for 10 years and be quite happy. The action's not bad for the guitar the whole way along. I'm quite happy with that. The struts here, good strong struts, good strong wood underneath it, good strong everywhere. So that bulge may have come out as far as it's going to come. I don't know where you can see that here, but it also means the bridge is leaning slightly forward. I don't like that. I don't like compromise. But I think the only way to do this guitar properly would be to take the whole top off, take the struts off, the flat wood, left with the flat, take all the struts off, put that down to flat wood, take off all the underwood. It's just too much of a job, and it's beyond me. My skill levels aren't up to that. But the guitar's playing well now. I'll give you a little tune in a second, and I'm happy enough with it. It's all working well, and that's the main thing. This little demo on my iPhone. Not quite sure I like it on the iPhone, but we'll see. Yeah, this is the Suzuki Hummingbird copy. It's playing okay now. Nice rich sound. Another very rich sound. sort of 7.5 out of 10 for this one. I don't like compromise, as I've already explained, but it's working. We'll only know in years to come if that is going to hold up. But frets done, everything done, cleaned up, blah de da da blah de blah de blah. All right. Okay.